Hey, what's good, everybody? We are about a month and a week out from real football. By the time you watch this, it will be like a month and a half a week. So big difference. But yeah, anyway, about a month and a week out from real NFL football. The games that count, not the Hall of Fame game and preseason games, those are fun to bet on and to get some fantasy news, squeeze some fantasy news out of them. This week, though, what I wanted to talk about was the top 5 fallers on KTC. If you are not familiar with KTC, you go on their page on the right-hand side. There's a top 5 risers over the last 30 days, and then the top 5 fallers over the past 30 days. A couple names on here, probably not surprising, and we'll get into each and every one of them, even if just briefly. First off, Quinshon Judkins. In case you were wondering, Quinshon Judkins' value has plummeted, for lack of a better term. He's dropped 1,191 KTC points. It's a lot. He's dropped a ton of value. Obvious reasons. He hasn't signed a contract. That's one of them. 2, he was arrested for domestic violence. I'm not here to tell you if he's going to be guilty or not. No way for me to know that. No way for any of us to know that. But what we do know is he was arrested, and it is affecting his dynasty value. Right now, he is the running back 20. And again, that is a pretty significant drop over the last few weeks. So what do you do with that, right? What do you do with Quinshon Judkins? Well, a couple things, right? Right off the bat, and this goes for probably any player that's in this situation. You have to determine what's your level of risk. How much risk are you willing to deal with, I should say. Now, I like to look at probable outcomes, right? Or a range of outcomes, and then we can move to probable. But there's a range of outcomes with Quinshon Judkins, right? One being that he never plays in the NFL. Probably not likely, right? That's probably unlikely. He probably does end up playing in the NFL, probably gets his contract signed at some point. In his range of outcomes is suspension. Perhaps he does sign a contract, he gets in there and he's suspended the first 4 games, which for dynasty purposes, I don't think would be really all that bad and might present another buying window for him if a suspension comes down. Then obviously there's the other range of outcome. Nothing happens and he's a running back 1. Truth is probably somewhere there in the middle, and you have to decide, what do you think is probable? The probable outcome is that he plays at some point and faces suspension. So I know in my leagues, I've gotten a lot of offers from him because I put him on the block. And the offers I'm getting, though, are a little less than I would like. Charles Tillman in a second, a 28 second, Romeo Dobbs, Miles Sanders, basically things like that. Those are the types of offers I'm getting. So what I wanted to do is go to see if this is just a my league problem. Like, is it the people that I play with? Are they the problem? So what I did is, as usual, I go on the Dynasty Daddy, just to see what trades are out there, and see, what can we come up with, or at least can we have some idea of what we can buy him for or trade him away. Now, if you want to trade him away, obviously you're going to probably take a loss, but I think expecting someone to take Charles Tillman in a second, probably a little egregious. Egregious is probably one word, but I don't know if that's the one I'm looking for. But anyway, it's not going to happen, basically, on my end. So maybe I'm crazy, though, right? So what I did, go to look at Dynasty Daddy. We look at some trades that were made today, even. Cam Scattaboo in a round 3 pick for Quinshon Judkins. Give me Quinshon. Quinshon for Xavier Worthy. That's pretty good cash out on Quinshon. I would probably take X. Rome Odunze in a second for Quinshon Judkins. Again, that's good cash out. These do not look like Charles Tillman in a second. Rome Odunze in a second looks very different than Quinshon Judkins. Quinshon Judkins and Emeka Ibuka for Omarion Hampton. Winning. Quinshon Judkins for DJ Moore and a 2026 second. Quinshon Judkins is 2026 first for Bo Nix. Judkins and Benton Strange for Kenneth Walker. I like that deal. The running backs are short-term bets as it is. I know Kenneth Walker does have injury concerns, but I would rather deal with his injury concerns as opposed to the knucklehead concerns from Quinshon Judkins. And it's not, like I said, it's not just the suspension or the looming suspension that really, I guess, worries me. It's more the poor decision-making process, right? This is a young man that's allegedly made some poor decisions, and that always scares me because generally, if you make poor decisions, there's a chance you're going to make poor decisions in the future. So some other trades, right? 26 first for Quinshon, 26 first for Quinshon, Brees Hall in a second for Quinshon, and Zay Flowers. 2026 second for Quinshon Judkins. So you can see the value is kind of all over the place, the market for him. This does leave you with an opportunity to buy, I will say. I got a lot of offers too, or at least one or two offers where I was offered a 26 second and a 26 third. I went ahead and offered that to everyone that I play with to see if I could get some movement or if I could get Quinshon for that price. I didn't get any. But I will say, if you have Cam Scadaboo and you're willing to move off of Cam Scadaboo, like Cam Scadaboo and a third for Judkins, that's something that I wouldn't be opposed to. I've seen, again, on Dynasty Daddy, there's deals where people trade it for Quinshon Judkins using Isaiah Pacheco and a 26 third. I think that's something that you want to do. As always, it's about cost, right? If you only have one league, and I know some of you only play in one league, you're probably like, well, Shane, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're saying buy here, sell there. If I had to make one choice, I would say I'm holding, buying. That's what I'm doing. The only way I'm moving him in, if I have a single league, a single share of them, the only way I'm moving them is at cost. It's got to be a 26 first. And again, I'm looking at range of outcomes. The upside for Quinshon Judkins is running back 1. The downside is he never plays. Let's say someone offers me Romeo Doubs for him. What is his upside? His absolute ceiling is probably wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. That's really not moving the needle. I'm not missing out on a lot, is what I'm trying to say. If I don't accept that deal and the worst thing that can happen to Judkins happens and he doesn't play, what did I really lose out on? A wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 season? I can live with that. All right, moving on from Quinshon Judkins. Then we have a couple of Pittsburgh Steeler tight ends in Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. Both these players are falling, both right around the same range. Pat Freiermuth has dropped 339 points. Jonnu has dropped 313 points for obvious reasons. Jonnu was traded to Pittsburgh, and now there's a whole, for lack of a better term, cluster to deal with. Arthur Smith knows how to ruin things. So I wanted to go back and just make sure. Maybe I'm misremembering, right? But I don't remember Arthur Smith's offense really producing elite tight ends. And I know he has a history of using multiple tight ends. So just wanted to check, see if maybe I was crazy. So I went back to 2019, his first year as an OC. He had Delanie Walker and Jonnu Smith. Delanie Walker, it was his last year, I believe. He was injured. He only played 16 games, scored 9.1 points per game. Didn't rate for points per game because he only played 6 games. Jonnu Smith, 7 points per game, tight end 21. He had 11-point target share. The tight end 2 in that offense, he had 11-point target share. Obviously, after Delanie Walker went down, he saw more targets, but he still shared the load there. Went to 2020. Overall, the Titans targeted the tight end at the 11th highest rate in the league. But Jonnu Smith only ended as the tight end 13. He only saw a 15.3 target share, 15.3%. Anthony Frisker saw an 11.3% target share. Anthony Frisker. You remember that name? Because I'm probably mispronouncing it. I actually think it's like Anthony for. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name correctly. He's not really worth the effort. Anthony Frisker had an 11.3% target share. Ended up as a tight end 33. He was the tight end 2 in that offense. And I keep looking at the tight end 1 and 2 because that's what we have in Pittsburgh, right? A tight end 1 and tight end 2, which doesn't really seem all that appealing. 2021, this was the Halcyon days. Kyle Pitts, 10.4 points per game. He finished as the tight end 11 and a 20% target share. Woohoo. Hayden Hurst, 4.9 points per game, tight end 30, just a 7.3% target share. So that was one of the bigger gaps we saw between the tight end 1 and the tight end 2 on the offense. 2022 kind of continued that trend. 22, they had a 34% target share. Atlanta did. Kyle Pitts had 7.6 points per game, but he had a 27.3% target share. Really good. His snap share was only 72%, which was only 19th among tight ends. McCole Pruitt, 4.2% target share, 4.2 points per game on a 6.9% target share. So again, the tight end's kind of useless. Go to 2023. Kyle Pitts had a 17%, we'll round up, 18% target share, finished as the tight end 16. And Jonnu Smith, 7.3 points per game, 13.8% target share. And then 2024, looking at Pat Freiermuth, 9.9 points per game, tight end 13. And then Darnell Washington, 51% snap share. Didn't even bother to look at his points per game. It wasn't good. So anyway, what we're seeing is the tight end one in Arthur Smith offenses are hard to get any production out of, let alone the tight end two. So I don't know who's going to be the tight end two. I would assume it's Pat Freiermuth. It could be Jonnu Smith. I don't know. And just for fun, Darnell Washington scored 2.7 points per game last year. So I don't know who the tight end one and who the tight end two in that offense are going to be. What I can tell you, though, in 6 seasons as either OC or head coach, Arthur Smith has seen one top 12 tight end. His best tight end one season was Kyle Pitts, tight end 11 in 2021. His tight end two in his offenses have seen between a 6.9 and 13.8% target share. His best finish for a tight end two was Jonnu Smith, who finished as the tight end 20 in 2023. Jonnu Smith, to remain in the conversation since he's in Pittsburgh now, his best season with Arthur Smith was 2020. He finished as the tight end 13. So what I'm trying to say is neither of these players are worth, I don't want to say rostering. Sure, you play in tight end premium leagues and you want to hope. But quite honestly, if someone comes knocking for one of these players, I'm probably moving them for just about anything I can get. Looking at Dynasty Daddy, here's Pat Freiermuth and a 26th third for Evan Ingram. That is in a 1-point tight end premium. That is an absolute smash. That deal was 3 days ago. Another deal, Pat Freiermuth and Chigakonkwo and a 26th third for TJ Hawkinson. Pat Freiermuth for Darnell Mooney. Pat Freiermuth for Mike Gesicki. Let's see, we got anything up? Pat Freiermuth and Alec Iomanner for Terrence Ferguson. 26th third for Pat Freiermuth. So there's some good deals out there for Pat Freiermuth. You can actually use him in a package to get a tight end that's actually got some value, even if it's like I said, but like Terrence Ferguson is someone that at least holds upside, right? And his value can increase. Again, I don't see how Pat Freiermuth's value or production increases with Jonnu Smith in town. And speaking of Jonnu Smith, same thing. Just going to go ahead and take a look at Dynasty Daddy. You can get Jawan Jennings for him. Another deal, I saw someone get a second and a fourth for Jonnu Smith and Darren Waller, throwing all the tight ends at the wall. Jonnu Smith for Cedric Tillman in a 27 second. I'll take the second. Jonnu Smith for a 26 second. Give me the second. Jonnu Smith for a 27 second. Give me the second. So you can get out on Jonnu Smith for 27 seconds, 26 seconds. Both these players, despite the fact that they're probably going to hold really no value in season. Sure, Jonnu will have spike weeks. I believe Jonnu will have a couple spike weeks because I think he'll be the tight end one in that offense. But again, the tight end one, let alone the tight end two, just haven't had a significant or haven't had a lot of production in Arthur Smith's offenses. There's really no reason to hold on to them. Let's move on from them. Rasheed Rice is our fourth faller. Rasheed Rice for the same types of concerns as Quinshon Judkins, right? Rasheed Rice, it came down. He's on 5 years probation, came out of nowhere, kind of. No one knew that he was going to court. I guess it's better than jail time. I'm sure he thinks it's better than jail time. I'd much rather be on probation than in prison, personally. I don't know how you feel about that. You put that in the comments. But anyway, so he's got 5 years probation. Yeah, people like me, they're a little scared. Again, knucklehead factor. 5 years is a long time to have to walk the straight and narrow when you're on probation for not walking the straight and narrow, right? Looking at the Dynasty Daddy deals, there's deals to be had. Now, I will say this. Rasheed Rice showed out last year in 3 games. His Trinity score on ddfantasyfootball.com. Make sure you check out the Trinity score. And if you want to become a DD Fantasy Football member, go ahead and use my promo code and get half off the first month. Check us out. You have the Trinity tool, the War tool, access to us in Discord, and our private shows in the Discord. Anyway, so last year, 6.76. I don't have my glasses on. 6.76 Trinity score, which would have put him right above the low end wide receiver range. Really good. For contextual purposes, Xavier Worthy, and this is seasonal, was 4.77. It's not as good, right? If you just want to look at the range of outcomes for a player like Rasheed Rice, let's go ahead and look at him while I'm on the Trinity tool. And his range of outcomes, I hit updates, gonna wait that. There we go. 18.3 points per game. Historically, this is historically, players with these Trinity scores have scored in a range of 13.3 to 18.3 points per game, low end to the high end. So anyway, the production's been there. So I'm a little reticent just to move him for anything, right? If you look again, if you go to KTC and just look at the rankings, and again, KTC is not the Bible. I get that. It's just a good barometer for the market. A lot of people like it. You could, right around Rasheed Rice's value or rankings, there's a Emeka Buka, Devonta Smith, Roma Dunze, Jameson Williams, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Addison. And that's about where we get to. But all those players are probably Devonta Smith, are probably players that I don't want to say acceptable, probably are acceptable for Rasheed Rice, especially if you can get like a little baby plus, even if it's a third. If you go down a little further, George Pickens, DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle, sure, I would like those dudes. I'd stay away from someone like Chris Olave, who I like, but Chris Olave has his own concerns and his own risks. So why would I trade a player because of risk to trade into a player that has his own risk? I don't want to just change the type of risk that I'm scared of or that I'm dealing with. I want to get rid of the risk. If I move Rasheed Rice for Xavier Worthy, well, the risk is that, Worthy's not going to be good at football. That could happen to anyone, but there's less of a risk, at least as far as the fact that he's not on probation. Again, so I don't want to move risk for risk, even if the risk is a little different. Again, let me go back to Dynasty Daddy types of deals we see. Devontae Adams in a third for Rasheed Rice. 12 by 10. Probably going to hold on to Rasheed Rice there. Rasheed Rice and Josh Downs for Christian Kirk and A.J. Brown. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I love me some Josh Downs, but if I can get A.J. Brown, and this is a 12 by 11, and Christian Kirk, I'm okay with that. Christian Kirk is obviously a step down from Josh Downs, and A.J. Brown is a step above Rasheed Rice, at least to me. So I would go ahead and take that deal. Just talking about Emeka Buka, Rasheed Rice in a third for Emeka Buka in a second. Give me Emeka Buka in a second. Emeka Buka. I haven't talked about the risers, and let me go look at those real quick, but I would assume he's a riser, and I would have assumed wrong. I think he'll be a riser shortly with the news we got on Chris Godwin. Okay. A couple more trades. Travis Hunter for Rasheed Rice. I love Travis Hunter. Give me Trav Hunter. Luther Burden and Chris Olave for Rasheed Rice. Do not want Chris Olave. Again, I talked about his concerns. Luther Burden practiced today. That's awesome. It's Monday. It's the first time he's practiced. Good for him. He's got his own concerns. At least I'm concerned about his health. Rasheed Rice and Jonathan Brooks for Tet McMillan. I would take Tet. Absolutely would take Tet. You had to throw in Jonathan Brooks. That's one of those, like, someone just wanted to feel better, so give me a second player. I really like Tet on that. I really, really like Tet. I like that deal. That's a really, really savvy deal. Like I said, you just throw in Jonathan Brooks, who's not going to play for you this year anyway, and I don't know when he'll play again. All right, let's move to the fifth and last player that is falling, and I'm not exactly sure why he's falling, and it's just a very, very small bit, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on him. Drake Maye, 243 KTC points is what he's dropped over the last 30 days. Not sure why that is, to be quite honest with you. I know camp opened. There wasn't really any bad news on Drake Maye. Maybe it's the realization that his wide receivers aren't very good, but Steph Diggs is practicing, so you would think that would make you feel good. Not really sure what's going on here. But I've been pretty vocal on Drake Maye. I like Drake Maye, but if I can get out on him on a high cost, I will. I'm looking at deals like, can I get looking Dynasty Daddy, CJ Stroud in a second for Drake Maye. I'm taking CJ Stroud, Baker Mayfield, and Isaiah Likely for Drake Maye. I probably hold on to Drake Maye. I think I could do better, and I like Baker a lot, but I think I could do better. Here's a fun one, and I don't know which way I would go. Oh, yes, I do. Ladd McConkey and Drake Maye for Jamar Chase. I'm taking Jamar Chase. Obviously, there's context to that. All these trades I'm looking at are super flex. Chris Olave, Anthony Richardson, and a 26th third for Drake Maye. I'm not sure why someone would do that. That's offensive, and I am offended by that deal. And obviously, I like the Drake Maye side. Drake Maye for Jordan Love and a 26 first. I'm going to go ahead and take the Jordan Love and a first for Drake Maye. That's not really an indictment on Drake Maye. There's a lot of quarterbacks in that range from 7 to infinity. I would move for another quarterback in the same range. Like Jordan Love and Drake Maye to me are roughly in the same range, and a first more than makes up for any difference that you have. All right, that's it. I just want to talk about some KTC fallers this week. Next week, maybe I'll talk about some risers, and maybe who did I say was going to be? Emeka Egbuka. Maybe Emeka Egbuka will be on there because I'm a little shocked he's not on there now. All right, so what are you doing with these players? Have you been able to make deals? I have not made one Judkins deal on my own. I haven't. Not outside of a large package deal where he wasn't the only piece, but I haven't made a Judkins deal. Been trying to move Drake Maye. I have not tried to move Freiermuth or Jonnu Smith, although I will after this, seeing what I saw. And then Rasheed Rice, the one Rasheed Rice I had, I moved him for Xavier Worthy. Again, there's a little bit of risk there that Xavier Worthy's not what he showed last year at the end of the season, but I like Xavier Worthy a lot, and I'm willing to risk that he and Rasheed Rice can both be productive in that offense. So that's all I got. Appreciate you watching the show, and I will talk to you later. Bye.